It's time now for Entre Nous, and today is April 1st, so of course it's April Fool's Day. For the occasion, Solange Moujin joins me on set. Hi, Solange.
Hi, Jeannie.
So you're going to tell us all about this tradition here in France. You're also going to try to get to the bottom of a trickier question, which is there a French sense of humor? But to start it all off, Solange, is it true that April Fool's Day actually started here in France?
Well, the definitive origins of April Fool's Day, they are not known. And there were celebrations and comedy and carnivalesque poking fun long before the Middle Ages and April Fools. But the French origins are no joke either. Historians say that one of the more credible theories to the start of this tradition is the change in the calendar year here in France. In the 16th century, under the Julian calendar, celebrations of the New Year began on March 25th to ring in spring, and festivities went until April 1st. But when the Gregorian calendar was adopted in the 1500s and made official by Charles IX in 1564, it took time for everyone to catch on to the new system. So a tradition began to ridicule and prank those that were celebrating the New Year in the old time. Now, in French, April Fools is called Poisson davril, or April Fish, and today there is a tradition that is still going around and strong here to discreetly put a fish on a paper fish on the person's back so that they walk around with the fish and are ridiculed. The origin story on this is also up for debate. It could be to show bounty or the period where fish were prevalent and so anyone could catch them, or a lack of fish at this time of year. It could be an old tradition of sticking old herrings on people's backs to ridicule them, or it could be because of Lent. Nonetheless, it is a common fun tradition among kids and adults here who say Poisson d'avril when you have been had.
You did that to me last year, Solange Moujin. All right, well, April Fool's jokes, of course, made in countries around the world, and they have changed through the ages, but would you say they're a dying art?
Well, person-to-person pranks, we are a case in point of this, they still exist, of course. But in the past century, April Fool's has especially been prevalent in the media. Some famous ones include Big Ben going digital, the BBC's report on a spaghetti harvest from trees, or NPR saying that Richard Nixon was running for office again. And here in France, there have been even look-backs on what makes a good April Fool's joke.
Allegedly, the bigger it is, the better the joke. Throughout history, the buzz made by colossal hoaxes has gone beyond reason.
We're going to move the Eiffel Tower. We're not going to take it apart, but put it on forklifts with hydraulic tubes.
Watch out, everyone. Penguins, cows, pigs. In Toulouse, bovines are headed to space on satellites. GPSs are grafted to bees. And in Lille, radars are flashing high-speed trains.
You may get 2 to 4 points.
Truth, lies, no one knows anymore.
Now, you could easily argue, though, that the internet and now AI, they have ruined April Fool's a little bit, that every day should be an April Fool's Day where we're extra skeptical of the information and the misinformation we're fed. With the internet, pranks do not disappear anymore, say after the nightly news. And with AI, the unbelievable has become so prevalent that some argue that we are in a post-truth era, which makes this limbo of credibility, the very thing that makes April Fool's Day jokes so fun, makes them land well, it may be weaker than it was.
Well, here in France, the place of humor in society is often a topic of discussion, but I guess the real question is, are the French funny?
Well, this, of course, is an impossibly subjective question, but there are studies about France's relationship to humor, or in French, l'humour, which, in my opinion, is actually one of the hardest words to pronounce for non-native speakers. It is often jumbled with humeur, which means mood, and humour actually came late to the French language, being officially added only in 1932. And Jeannie, did you know that the Académie française, the guardian of the French language, well, they had to approve not only the words for jokes like blague, farce, boutade, and plaisanterie, but they also had veto power on the actual jokes themselves. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
It's not true. It's
April
Fool's. Poisson d'avril. In any case, France is not known, like other countries potentially, for its sense of humor, rather like the UK, for example, or at least I don't think so. Rather, France has a long tradition of political satire and caricature. as well as a love of childish farces and linguistic somersaults, and word plays as well, the famous and untranslatable jeu de mots, rather than, say, a self-deprecation or neuroses and confessional wit.
All right, despite not being known perhaps for being funny, French people do love to laugh.
Of course they do. We all do. Even if one's sense of humor is often quite personal, there are often cultural elements here as well. And humor changes over the eras, with frequent calls for it to be safeguarded. The Jean Jaurès Foundation found in a poll that 62% of French people feel that they can't laugh about everything in France. And the majority of them polled also said that they regret that. Likewise, LinkedIn did a poll that found that 6 out of 10 French employees wished that their colleagues joked around more. Not us.
They should come to visit us.
Yeah, exactly. And 78% found that humor was not given enough value in the workplace. And that's interesting because we often put humor and jokes, the life force of April Fools, we often put them in the same bag as laughter. And that laughter is the product of jokes. But it's actually more likely, laughter is more likely with comments and statements and coming from a person that you actually see and hear. And it's less likely if you're alone. It is socially contagious. According to studies by the National Institute of Health, laughter is the most common in conversations with others, with an average of 5 laughs for every 10 minutes of talking to someone.
That's good. We can all use a little more laughter in our lives, especially these days. Thanks so much for that, Solange Bougeant, with your look at April Fools or Poisson davril. And don't forget, you can always check out all the Entre Nous on our website. That address is france24.com.